You walk out the door, you hear the lock click behind you, and for the next several hours, your cat is completely on its own. No cameras rolling, no one watching, just an animal and an empty apartment. It is easy to assume nothing much happens in that stretch of time. But researchers who have actually studied this question using hidden cameras, GPS collars, and behavioral experiments have found that a cat's life while you are gone is far busier and far more emotional than most people think. Let's start with the biggest myth, that cats do not really care whether you are there or not. For decades, cats were painted as aloof animals who tolerate humans mainly for food. Researchers at Oregon State University put that idea to a real test. They ran an experiment modeled on the same attachment studies used with human infants and with dogs. A cat spent time in an unfamiliar room with its owner. The owner briefly stepped out and then returned, and scientists scored how the cat reacted to that reunion. The results showed that most cats, around 2 out of every 3, were what researchers call securely attached. That means the presence of their person genuinely changes how safe and relaxed the animal feels, especially in a strange or stressful environment. In other words, your cat is not simply enduring you. On some level, it is relying on you. That changes how we should think about the moment you leave. A study out of Sweden, published in the journal PLOS ONE, looked specifically at what happens to cats during and after separation from their owner. Researchers tracked a small group of house cats through 2 different absences, one lasting 30 minutes and one lasting 4 hours. What they found lines up with something already known about dogs. The length of the separation did not change much about how the cat behaved while alone, but it changed how the cat greeted its owner afterward. Cats who had been left for the longer stretch showed noticeably more interaction when their person walked back in. More following, more vocalizing, more physical closeness. So even if a cat is not visibly stressed the whole time you are gone, something about that absence is registering. It shows up the moment you return. Not every cat handles this the same way, though. Veterinary sources citing NIH reference data estimate that somewhere between roughly 13 and 19% of cats show clear signs of distress when separated from their owners for extended periods. That can look like excessive vocalizing, scratching at doors or furniture, knocking things over, or urinating outside the litter box, often close to the owner's bed or belongings. Vets increasingly treat this as a real condition, sometimes called separation-related distress, rather than dismissing it as bad behavior. It tends to be more common in cats who are separated too early from their mother, cats with only one owner, or cats who never learned to be comfortable with alone time as kittens. So while the classic image of the independent cat is not entirely wrong, it is not the full picture either. So what is the average cat actually doing, minute by minute, while the apartment is empty? Sleep takes up the largest share of the time. Cats naturally sleep somewhere between 12 and 16 hours a day. And animal behaviorists note that most of that sleeping happens in a warm, secure spot, a windowsill catching afternoon sun being a favorite. But sleep is not the whole story. One of the more interesting looks into this came from a citizen science project years ago that fitted around 50 house cats with small cameras and let them roam their homes and yards normally. The footage showed a much more varied day than most owners expected. Cats use the time to investigate things they usually ignore when people are around. Dig into forgotten toys, watch birds or insects through windows with intense focus, and patrol territory room by room almost like a routine inspection. That patrolling instinct becomes even clearer in cats who have access to the outdoors. GPS tracking studies, including a large citizen science project out of North Carolina State University and a separate one conducted in Denmark, have put location collars on hundreds of pet cats to see where they actually go. The Danish study found that cats with outdoor access spent a median of about 5 hours away from home per day, covering roughly 2.5 kilometers and using a home range of around 5 hectares. And younger cats with access to natural areas roamed the farthest. Most cats, it turns out, stay fairly close to home, sticking to a loop of neighboring yards and familiar paths, but a smaller number range dramatically farther, which is part of why researchers are still trying to understand which individual cats are the wanderers and which are the homebodies. Underneath both the sleeping and the roaming is a hunting instinct that never fully switches off, even in a cat that has never caught anything more exciting than a fly. Behaviorists point out that this is why cats fixate so intensely on movement outside a window, a bird landing on a fence, a leaf blowing across the yard, a bug crossing the glass. It is also why enrichment matters so much for indoor cats specifically. Some behavior consultants recommend leaving nature footage or motion-based cat videos playing while owners are out, based on observations that cats will actively watch and track content on a screen, treating it as a substitute for the visual stimulation they would normally hunt for outdoors. There is also a quieter emotional layer to all of this that research has only recently started to take seriously. A long-running study known as the Companion Animal Mourning Project found that a majority of cats who lost a companion animal in the household showed measurable signs of grief, changes in vocalization, appetite, and affection toward their remaining owner. It is a reminder that cats are not just running on instinct when no one is watching. They are forming bonds, tracking absences, and reacting emotionally to change, even if they cannot tell us about it directly. Put all of this together, and the picture that emerges is a lot more layered than cats don't care. Most cats spend the bulk of their alone time asleep in a warm spot, but the time they are awake is filled with instinctive behavior, territory checks, hunting practice through a window. And for cats with outdoor access, real physical exploration that can stretch for hours and kilometers. Underneath that behavior sits a genuine attachment to the people they live with, one that research increasingly compares to the bond seen in dogs and even young children. The cat curled up asleep when you get home is not indifferent to the fact that you are gone. In its own quiet, four-legged way, it noticed.